Mike, appreciate you hopping on these film set every week, man. I'm excited. We've talked a lot of ball the last couple of years for you and I, last decade maybe. But excited having the Shrine Bowl
Yeah.
staff this year. I kind of accidentally forgot to announce you part of the staff so far. We'll do it tomorrow, but excited to have you aboard the last couple of weeks, man. Excited for these every week.
Yes, dude, very excited. We've already done a few cross-check
Yeah.
meetings, and I can truly say they're the highlight of my week.
Yep.
Just getting to talk like borderline draftable guys, just going in depth about their strengths and weaknesses. It truly gives me life.
Yeah. It's fantastic to listen to. We let Shane Coughlin kind of lead those calls as well too. But you've been awesome, man. But let's dive in because I've been anti week zero by the name of week zero. I think it's a dumb concept. But I did miss football quite a bit, and I'll let you kind of lead here a little bit, man. Every week we're gonna just talk ball, talk players, like those cross check meetings. Want to hear from people in the audience listening as well too. But hopefully it's a good chance for us to kind of recap what happened the week before, man. So um, I guess you'll kick it off and take the lead about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so most weeks we'll do a little recap of what we saw over the course of the weekend. Maybe guys who are rising up boards, guys who are impressing, things of that nature. Obviously, with week zero not having a lot of games, not a ton to talk about this week, so we'll do a little class overview too towards the end of this. But I'm with you on week zero. I think once college football, gobbles itself up in its greed, we're going to look back on week zero as like the the starting point of the end of it, because it's like they try to convince a whole group of fans that week zero is like a logical concept. It's
No,
not. It's one. We start at one. We're not a European elevator. We don't start at zero. We
week
start at one
week
here in
week
America.
-1, Syracuse, Colorado spring game next year. I'm excited. But if
uh,
I can start, Mike, there's a player I watched
yeah.
this weekend that I obviously knew about because I'm hopefully doing my job decently well. But I was really
hmm
excited, and it's a quarterback.
I know who you're going
Shrine
with.
Bowl week zero, Monday morning quarterback Maverick McKeever, and uh, couldn't have been more excited about how he played, what he did. I think that I get excited for quarterbacks that have a baseline level of ability, but when their misses or their mistakes are actually like explainable and a good reason. And for Maverick, it's his first game with the new team. And you watch the game, you just watch it on TV copy or whatever. It's impressive. You watch the film, there's a couple of deep balls here or there, or timing throws here or there that are either completions but not yards after catch or just missed opportunities. And you're like, well, he's going to make that week three once he knows these guys a little bit more as well too. Like I left that game thinking this could have been a 6 touchdown, 35 for 37 kind of game with how on time and accurate. I love the confidence, the wrist flick he has to just make plays downfield. It's got some Will Levis level like velocity in the short to mid area. It's got that gunslinger swagger. And I think a guy who's creative and aggressive and willing to take risks week zero with a new team, I can only imagine it's gonna be like in week 4 or 5. Like I'm not sure people at in the train. Obviously, he had some bigger preseason NFS Blesto grades, so he's not really a sleeper sleep among NFL scouts.
hmm
But like this could be a real guy. This is different than Bailey Zappi, I guess, who he's gonna be compared to. Very different style of player. You agree?
There's tools to work
Yeah,
with. There's something more than just the guy's a volume passer who doesn't make a ton of
yeah.
mistakes. For those that don't know, so he's Western Kentucky's quarterback.
Sorry,
3 year
I got too
starter at
excited.
Abilene
My
Christian
bad.
before
Thank
this.
you. Sorry.
Yeah, you just
Got
wanted to
excited.
jump right in.
Week zero.
But last year against Texas Tech, he went for 500 in week
Yeah,
one. The guy he is aggressive and he is an athlete. I
yeah.
think are the two biggest things to say about him. And you see a real rotational motion generates a lot of power from in a short amount of time with that motion. And so, like you said, real good zip underneath, intermediate, and could push the ball on the football field and wants to.
Yep.
Like you saw consistently, it was like a gift and a curse in his very
Yeah.
first game against Sam Houston State. Like he had some throws where it's like, if this wasn't Sam Houston State, that's a pick. If this isn't NFL or even like high D1 safety, that's getting picked off. But give me the guys that you can reel that in instead of the guys I need to coach that into. And especially like you mentioned, it's his first game with new receivers at a brand new spot, and he's already
He
that aggressive down the football
he's
field. So this is like
he
as bad as he's going to be.
he's the kind of guy that if he's playing like a video game for football, he's not punting on fourth down. There's no rushing attempts. Also, like he is throwing the ball
Yep.
constantly, and he's a really impressive passer too. I will say shout out to his receiver Chris Henry, also a very talented player. Was clearly Maverick's favorite guy. Any one-on-one matchup where like the safety was middle of the field and it was gonna be a one-on-one with the guy, he was looking over there as well too. Which I always look for that stuff for a quarterback because that's telling me hey, this team knows that this receiver is really good, not just their best receiver. Like one on one, we're throwing to him too. So watch out for the receiver, Chris. I think he was number 17. The receiver, good player as well too. So, anyways, Maverick Meaver got me excited for week 0. It made it all feel better.
Yeah, when going back and watching the quarterbacks, like there are some other guys who are,
Yeah.
quote unquote prospects. Rocco back from Iowa State, but like he was the one where I was like, this guy looks a little bit something different. Where everyone else is kind of like, hey, maybe they turn into a backup.
Yep.
McKeever's like, maybe this guy turns into a starter type
Yeah.
prospect.
Matthew Henry, by the way, not Chris Henry. I got that wrong. Sorry. A receiver on my mind. Matthew Henry, not Chris Henry. Um, but who else impressed you from week 0? Because I had a couple more guys as well too, but I jumped the gun on Maverick. So you go next.
So the highest prospect on my board heading in, Dominic Orange
Yeah.
from Iowa State. I was
Big
on
Citrus?
one
That his
hand,
nickname? I saw
Big
that. Oh, wow,
Citrus
incredible.
as the nickname. On one hand, very impressed with the athlete. I mean, he had like 2 or 3 reps in that game against Kansas State where he just, I mean, his ability to sink and explode at 325 pounds, just like on contact, offensive lineman goes like 2 to 3 yards backwards. Just special sort of pop for a big fella. But I was hoping for a little bit more down to down consistency in the running game. When you're a nose tackle, it is more of a consistency position. You can't just have high end reps and then get pushed off the ball one play. I was hoping for his hand placement and consistency to be just at a next level where it's like, okay, this guy is a day one run defender. And now there's still so much to work with. And obviously it's early on in the season and it was a sloppy track there over and across the pond. But yeah, Dominic Orange, he's still kind of in that tantalizing, but I don't think we're seeing him go to like the first round conversation after what I saw.
Good call there. I'll go next guy, which is I think Iowa State and Kansas State, really the entire Big 12. I say this not just like overarchingly. Big 12 has like 14 teams of their like 16, whatever it is, that do an incredible job in the portal and developing players. And I think Iowa State and Kansas State are 2 of them. That entire Kansas State offensive line, from their center, Sam Heck, the rest of their offensive line, JB Nelson played really well that game. Iowa State has a left and right tackle who are NFL guys. So just if you're an NFL draft fan, like Iowa State, Kansas State, O line, D line, those are going to have a whole bunch of maybe later round PFA guys, but really are impressive. But I think I tweeted about my next guy before the game, and he ended up having 2 drops. But overall, a pretty impressive vertical game. Jace Brown, who's a 4.3, 4.4 speed guy, who's going to be used on reverses and jet sweeps, and he was used across the formation here. And I think 1 drop was in the first quarter, 1 drop was in the second quarter, both on kind of timing. I think they were both kind of timing slant posts, kind of quicker breaking routes there in the short midfield too. So we got to clean those up. But just the speed you see it. He had a stop and go for a touchdown that kind of allowed Kansas State to kind of get back in the game, mid part of the game as well too. But a really impressive guy that I think he's a junior, he could stay, but I think in this receiver class, lacking some kind of elite speed guys, Jace Brown's gonna be a guy that I'll be pretty excited about all season long too. I think he's gonna be a guy that's gonna be a big part of Kansas State's offense. Already was in week 0.
Yeah, this class feels like it has a ton of 180 pounders. So
Yeah,
he's a speed guy, more vertical slot. Where this class is like, man, every guy I've watched so far that I'm like, this guy can play in the NFL. It's like, oh, he's also probably just going to be a slot receiver in the NFL too.
yeah,
It's really loaded with that type of wide receiver. Um, but he has the vertical element that, like you said, not a lot of guys do. I just want his hands to get a little bit better. Drops have been a theme for
yeah,
him over the course of his career. He not only had the 2 drops, but then he had a go ball from the slot where he had the guy beat, had to kind of adjust to come back to it. Could have made a play.
yeah,
You expect like if a guy's like a 6'2", 210-pound wide receiver, he probably makes that play. But Brown at 6 foot 180, corner kind of boxes him out from the catch point, and he doesn't you know come home with that. Those are the ones where those become more frequent at the NFL level. So securing those, being more competitive in those situations is something that he has to work on.
yeah. I only had one more guy I want to talk about. Anybody else you want to hit on first before I'll kind of cap it off? Anyone wants to jump out to you, or you want to go to me?
Not really.
Yeah,
I don't need to go too far into the,
yeah.
the one Big 12 game.
Yeah. Well, I watch all the FCS games too, Mike. It's week 0. You got to watch
Okay,
all
I'm
these
sorry.
games. But no, I think the
Yeah.
only guy, which is not an FCS guy, that I'll call out because I'm bullish on him this year. And after a up and down last season, some injury stuff, Jalen Daniels at Kansas. I've
Okay.
always liked. I mean, as a person, as a leader, like incredible. Like he's going to get a chance in an NFL locker room, NFL quarterback room next time this year. He'll be a tough cut for anybody because of his mental ability, his character, his experience, the fact that he's a good athlete as well too. But I think he made a huge stride. We don't usually see guys that are fourth or fifth year guys make big strides as passers. I think he's one of those guys that's gonna feel a little bit different than he has in years past. I'm not saying a Jaden Daniels type jump or going from one guy to another guy, but I think he's going to be someone from a hey, I kind of forgot about him. And I think by week 7, week 8, there'll be a lot of people being like, actually, Jalen Daniels looks like not only a capable NFL college quarterback, but a real NFL prospect. So he had 3 touchdowns in this game against Fresno State. I thought he looked really good and efficient. He didn't try to do too much any point. A lot of receivers make plays after the catch. A lot of good like setting his receivers up for opportunities post catch, which I think is a really underrated skill set in a lot of quarterbacks. But he worked with Jordan Palmer this offseason. Jordan, as people know, has worked with the Shrine Bowl in years past, and Jordan has done a great job. And Jordan has sworn by like, hey, Jalen Daniels is going to make some big strides this year. And I saw it in week 1 against Fresno. So the Big 12 schedule is a gauntlet, and it'll be tough to see anybody have success there. But I'm pretty bullish on Jalen this year.
When you were describing him and his career trajectory, I started thinking of Jordan
Yeah,
Travis at Florida State, and kind of like the same trajectory. Where it's like early on in his career, if you told me that guy's an NFL prospect, I would have kind of been like, I don't think so.
yeah.
By the end, it's like, oh wait, he really is. And unfortunately for Travis, obviously the injury robbed him of what could have been a long NFL career. But I'm with you on Daniels. Like he's a very smooth, efficient motion, accurate passer. Just definitely doesn't have the tools you would usually. He's an athlete, but he's not like such an athlete that you're going to bat for his rushing ability. He doesn't have a weak arm, but it's not like a plus arm by any means. So there's really nothing to hang his hat on that you're like, that's above and beyond.
Yep.
But there's a reason the guy started way back in 2020, right? As a true freshman. Usually that's a good indicator of how talented Kansas thought of him. And he's been in the mix there ever since, despite some injuries and whatnot. But when you play that much football, chances are you get better. And if you're willing to work at it the way he has, he definitely has seen his career and seen improvement year on year consistently from
And
him.
it's going to be on him because they don't have. I mean, they've got a lot of good people around him, but they don't have a Devin Neal who can kind of carry the load in offense. Hishaw, the running back there, is good, but he's not Devin Neal. And it's going to be on Jalen to be successful all year long too. So that's the highlight. I mean, there's a lot more guys that we watched, and I shout out our Shrine Bowl staff, which will be formally announced tomorrow on Shrine Bowl's Twitter account. So excited to announce who's officially on our staff for this year as well too. But our scouts watched every game of Week 0, but those are the guys I think worthwhile to talk about at least so far in the process.
Yeah, so want to do a little class
Yeah.
overview, and then I'll just give my initial take on this upcoming class, kind of where the strengths and weaknesses lie. I think offensive tackle, defensive end, quarterback, you have great incoming classes. Obviously, 3 positions. I think 3 of the 4 highest positions in the NFL in terms of how much they get paid. Good to have those. I think running back, you're taking a step back. Wide receiver, you just don't have the top end talent right now. You don't have the first rounders in this draft class, although it's deep with guys like we talked about in Jace Brown earlier. A lot of day 2 speed, sort of slot sort of guys in this draft class.
Yep.
And then defensively, I think DT's particularly weak. Linebacker should be a solid class. Cornerback, safety, kind of just okay classes at this point, but I really want to hammer home quarterback, OT, and defensive end. And the quarterback class specifically is the most excited I've been for a quarterback class just because it's so up in the air. I mean, there truly is a wild west in terms of who could end up being quarterback 1 when it's all said and done, and just where these guys could go. It could end up looking like 2024, where we see 6 guys in the first round. That would not surprise me. There's that much talent from a physical perspective and what these guys have and what they're capable of. Or it could just be, it could really putter out when it's all said and done. A lot of guys could end up coming back to school that are the promising ones. So it will be the most fun position to track for sure in this year's draft class.
Before I go to quarterbacks, I want to kind of echo what you just said there. I talked to 2 different defensive tackles in this year's draft class, or this upcoming year, 2026 draft class, about it. And I was like, hey, man, like if you came out last year, you are the same player you are right now. And I think you might be a top 100 pick. You might have been undrafted last year. Like people don't, I think we're going to see in a couple of years that, like, wow, all those D tackles from 2025 made it. And even though teams are always going to want big, human beings on their roster because they're hard to find. Like there was just so many guys last year. So I think it's still a fine D tackle class. I don't think I wouldn't call it weak necessarily, but I do think not as dauntingly dominant as it was a year ago, where
Yes.
there was like 30, 40 guys who could play on an NFL roster. So, but on the quarterback, man, I think I like a lot of players. I'm not sure there's nobody in this class, at least in my opinion, that is the Caleb Williams, Drake May. This guy is going to go in the
Yes.
top 3, 4 picks, and that's exciting. I don't say that's a bad thing.
Hmm.
I'm not saying like I don't think these guys can be that. I think they have all something a little more to prove, and there's some guys more than others. But I think it's as deep as almost like D tackle a year ago, where there's 18, 19 guys where I'm like, yeah, if they come out and have the year that I'm pretty sure they're gonna have, like they're gonna be a draft pick. And I think of things a little differently than maybe you will in your role and kind of covering the draft week to week at CBS, where like I'm just saying like, hey, what's the baseline? Can these guys get drafted? Are these guys top 5 round picks? And there is,
Hmm.
pardon my French, a shitload of quarterbacks where I'm like, yeah, pretty sure they could be drafted, pretty sure they should be drafted. I think the one wrinkle, which is such a we're still early in NIL and transfer, it's such a huge development, but so many guys can go back to school another year. And I've talked to one, two, three, 4 quarterbacks who I think pretty highly of, and they've kind of told me, "Hey, unless I'm gonna be a first rounder for sure, I'll just go back." And we've seen the value of going back for guys like Bo Nix or Cam Ward. We know the money is not gonna be a huge issue anymore either too. So I think it'll be hard to bet with this quarterback class all year long because the guys I think are, 3 of the top 7 or 8 guys, I think are more likely to go back if they don't have a Heisman Trophy national championship-like season, which I think for most of these guys won't be because only one person kind of be that guy at the end of the day too. So a pretty wide open
Hmm.
quarterback class for sure.
Yeah, and I think we're entering. I've had this take
Let's hear it.
somewhat recently over the past like year and a half. I think we're entering a golden age in terms of quarterback prospects.
Yeah.
I think it started with 2024, but I think it's directly because of, and I don't want to give too much credit, but directly because of things like TikTok and social media and the proliferation of actually how to throw mechanically sound a football from an early age. How to throw rotationally from the first time you're picking up a football. I just remember when I was a kid growing up in a small town in Illinois. If I wanted to figure out how to throw a baseball or a football better, there was nowhere to go. There was no options for me. You had to go travel to the big town 30 minutes over to find the one guy who specialized in throwing mechanics. And even then, it's like that guy may have been blowing some smoke up my ass. Like now, you go and Tom Brady will teach you how to throw a football on YouTube, or Jordan Palmer will teach you how to throw a football on TikTok. Like there's just so much information out there that's available to guy growing up in the middle of nowhere that he can learn how to throw a football mechanically sound. And then when you do that, and when that's your pattern of movement, you are so far ahead of the curve. And so we're seeing all these like guys come up, and there's the reason why I feel like arm strength is like there's so many guys coming out in recent years who just have these like cannons for arms because uh, we've kind of solved throwing is kind of like this solved problem that if guys really work on the correct mechanics, you can become an accurate thrower. If you're someone like Josh Allen, who was a big strider at Wyoming, learned how to throw rotationally, and all of a sudden the accuracy turned on. I think Drew Aller was a guy who was a big strider in high school. They worked on his mechanics later on in his high school career and now throughout Penn State. And you're seeing the fruits of that the more and more he gets comfortable with it. So I do think that with that, you'll just see a lot more athletes who, maybe were super strong arm, but then went to other positions because they weren't accurate. Well, now we're teaching them how to actually be accurate at the quarterback position.
TikTok. Wow.
TikTok.
Yeah, it's a good take. I don't know if I think I agree with it. I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I think more and more colleges have also gotten way better at setting guys up for the NFL. I will say I've told NFL people this. I think there is way less reason for there should be a way higher threshold for what's a good draft class because so many guys are smart, experienced, have been absorbing good football information for so long that like these guys are not what
Hmm.
they were in the 2010s and 2015 of like what kind of like
Yep.
they're ready to go for the NFL. They're ready to go as well too. But let's go. Let's stay on quarterbacks. Maybe we'll end on this note, which is upcoming this week one. Because a bunch of good quarterback matchups. Which quarterback matchup are you excited to watch this weekend? Because I got a couple that I'm excited as a scout.
I mean, it's got to be Ohio State, Texas, right?
Yeah,
Arch Manning against, gosh, I'm blanking on his name right now, but I know I've heard rave reviews out of who's the Ohio State starter.
Dan.
He's not draft eligible, but yeah, Eh, that is going to be just because Arch he's my quarterback one at the moment. I think he's special, and obviously gets this massive test right out the gate. But um, that's like the one nice thing to come out of this. new college football landscape is that when you get real heavyweight matchups, when you get the good teams actually playing each other, it feels like it feels like NFL games at this point.
I think the quarterback matchup I'm excited about this weekend is who I think will be battling maybe for the first overall pick, which is Cade Klubnik against Garrett Nussmeier, Clemson, and LSU. I think those are the teams
Hmm.
that'll be there as well at the end. But I will say I think there's early season quarterback matchups are really important for scouts because I've seen it. Like you can NFL scouts are on the road, NFL GMs are watching week one because there's no NFL games quite yet, right? So sneaky, like the first couple weeks of the year is when NFL decision makers are actually going to watch a lot of film before they get inundated with the season. So these early matchups, I hear it. Like they get referenced a lot by NFL personnel too. So not to put pressure on K Club, like I don't think he's in this group right now listening, but like I think a lot of these quarterbacks early in the season, like it can have a huge impact. The role of bias in NFL scouting, not meant to be negative, but just it's how human nature works. Is that NFL head coaches are watching will watch Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier. They'll watch Arch Manning at Ohio State this year, and they may not watch any games until it's film time in February and March. So these early season games are really important for NFL personnel. We try to not have that bias at the Shrine Bowl, but I'm excited for Nussmeier and Klubnik because I think this game will stick with both these players for a long time, and I think both have a chance to be first overall pick good and among the top 10, 15 quarterbacks in the last couple of years good.
Yeah, I mean those guys. They are the two of this quarterback class that are like they feel like they know how to play quarterback already. We're talking about a lot of guys who are just unbelievably physically talented. Klubnik and Nussmeier actually are like quarterbacks who have developed at this point in time, whereas we're still waiting for development from some of these other guys.
Yeah. Well, this was great, man. I know we're 25 minutes in. We want to keep these pretty tight in the future as well. But Mike, thanks for hosting this. You're going to host these moving forward as well too. Appreciate everyone who joined us as well. Obviously being recorded, so all of you listening afterwards, we really appreciate it too. But join us next Tuesday for lunch, or as I call it, third coffee. Um, and we'll talk more football again next week, Mike. I appreciate it, Mike.
Can't wait. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Take
Thanks,
it
man.
easy.